Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. This is my son Ben, and today we have an Ardbeg live tasting.
Which is really, really nice because I always wanted to do an Ardbeg live tasting because people are just interested. They love Ardbeg. But it's hard to make an Ardbeg live tasting if you don't have any miniature bottles because we can't send anything out that we don't have to our customers. And what came about was last Halloween there was the Monsters of Smoke, which is a miniature pack with O2 bottles, 3 times 200 milliliter bottles like this. And yeah, that's what we sent out to our customers in Germany. And yeah, that is pretty nice. So we can now have an Ardbeg tasting. And what we're going to have today is exactly these 3 whiskies in that set. And that is the Ardbeg 10. Then we have the Ardbeg 5 Wee Beastie. And then we have the Ardbeg An Oa, which is kind of the typical range, or typical range would be these 2 plus Corryvreckan, or
yeah, something
like that.
Where this one is very unusual in this huge tin, because there is
It's the An Oa smoker.
There is a small smoker for your barbecue in it. And this is the smoker. There you put your wood in and put it on top, and then you place it on the fire close to your meat or your steaks where you're grilling there, and then the smoke will generate and come out of this segment here. Yeah, and below that is the bottle itself. Oops. Okay. Yeah. And we thought about the sequence in which we taste, and well, there are several ways you may approach this problem, this task. You could go by age and say, well, this is 5, this is 10, and An Oa we don't know. And the other way, we could go by ABV. So this is 46, this is 46.6, this is 47.4 something. So you could go by alcoholic volume, but we decided to go by, well, the used casks in it. The used casks.
From what we remember or from what we know, the perceived strength of the whiskey. So you should always go from the lowest strength to the higher, like as an intensity. So if you have a smoky whiskey that is really, really, really intense compared to a non-smoky whiskey, so you should have that last. But as they're all smoky, we thought, okay, the Ardbeg 10 is just bourbon cask. Then here we have some sherry cask in there, and here we have fresh oak cask and some sherry cask. So this was kind of the strongest of them. So this is the sequence we're gonna do it.
And we might have gone by money. So this is 40, this is close to 50, and this is, well, going up to 60.
So usually you have a sequence that is quite obvious. This here, very debatable.
Yeah.
And then you can write it in the chat if you think you should have gone with a different sequence. But yeah. Let's start off where we're going today. Where is Ardbeg? And Ardbeg is on this map on the bottom east, on that small yellow island called Islay.
West,
sorry. West, yes. If you zoom into that island, you see, it's on the south coast, just where the little pot still is, and there are 3 distilleries on the south coast up till now. If you look at the few years later, there might be more distilleries now, and it's on the most eastern distillery on the south coast. And if you look at the south coast on it's like a U-shaped isla, and if you look at the right leg of the U, then you have a little bubble at the bottom west. So there's a little bubble going out, and that's the Mull of Oa.
Yes.
which we come to later. So keep that in mind. That's like the most southern part of Islay, and it's very, very windy, and they had some ship crashes there back in the days, so they actually built a lighthouse there. I've been there. It's really, 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 really windy. So probably the most windy that I've ever experienced. Yeah. So the Isle of Islay has about 3,328 people. That was the census of 2011, so probably rose a little bit because they've built another distillery. Now it has 8 active distilleries and 19 closed distilleries. So how do you get to the Isle of Islay? By ferry. So you go to Glasgow, you ride your car around to the Isle of peninsula of Kintyre, and about halfway there to the peninsula you find a port. I think it's Kilkenacraig or Kilkenacraig, and there is the ferry there. That's a very, very old picture.
It's 95.
Yeah.
1995.
Nowadays the ferries look a bit different. They're a bit wider, like what's it called? Like wider. And you drove there by quite a different method. There is an airport on Islay, but you took even a different route to
Yes,
that.
directly to Ardbeg. So we started with the helicopter and flew into Ardbeg. And on the very right side, you can see one helicopter. We flew there with 3 helicopters. It was a press event, and we were invited. And from the shores of Loch Lomond, from the lawn of the hotel, the 3 helicopters started down to Islay. We flew around, along the coast and then settled ourselves there. And from there we went up to Loch Ugedal and had a glamorous camping event up there. And it was wonderful weather, 25 degrees centigrade. So it was really, really nice. I remember that year. I think it was 2014. Very much. Beautiful event. Yeah.
So yeah, the distillery you see there is located on the south.
Sorry. There is on our channel. There is a video. About this flight up there and the glamping and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and about the distillery.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the distillery was built or was founded in 1815 by John McDougall, and it's actually a distillery. The distillery was then kind of built, but before that they even had illicit distilling, so illegal distilling
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. But on that side they did it as well, and it was backdated to 1794. And
It's always a race where you find some paper with a year on it.
The thing is, usually the paper you find it, the year on it for illicit distilling is the arrest record. That's usually the way how you found out that there was distilling going on there. So yeah, I think enough talked. Let's try the first one.
Yeah. So we have these small bottles, which were in this package you have over there. So
It was a Halloween package.
So they are new. And we have a close-up here. And here you can see there's a small rip-off, and below that you see the original giant.
I want to see the giant.
The giant is the bottle of Ardbeg.
The bottle
Is the giant, yeah.
The
What
bottle
else? and she's scared very much. She's
of
scared
the bottle.
of the giant.
You don't have to be scared of the bottle. It's as scared of you as you are of it.
The last bottle will survive you.
I don't think there are many bottles that will survive me. Just too many bottles.
So, and to keep it, make it complete, show the bottle from the inside. Here we go. This is the classic Ardbeg 10 bottle. So
Yeah, it would be cool to go there on a whiskey tour. If you go to Ardbeg, you can take a bit more time into visiting Ardbeg because of what we're gonna say next after we've tasted the 10.
very much balanced. Of course, all of those 3 bottles show smoke, smoke, smoke. Definitely. So, and what I'm describing here is the different sub-aromas below that smoke. And this is balanced fruitiness, upstarting spiciness, light sweetness. So it's already in the smell, it's complex, and the smoke is interweaving with all of those aromas, and it's pleasing, welcoming. Well, we had just an hour ago 3 sips of these, so there is a our tasting receptors are already in use. So this is not that strong as somebody who starts now with a fresh glass, with a fresh bottle. Then it's overwhelming, smoky and intense. But after 3 small sips, this is just wonderfully intermixing with it. Yeah.
I like it. The smoke that you have within the Ardbeg is just, I like it so much with the 10-year-old. It's just, it feels so much like a fluffy cloud. It's so round, mild. It has a little bit of sweetness in it. Not that much. It's not distracted by too much of fruit. It has a little bit of sweetness, roundness to it. So it feels like a gray puff of cloud. And for some reason, it always reminds me of smoke from a kiln. And yes, smoke from a kiln. Every whiskey has smoke from the kiln, but that just doesn't feel any different. Sometimes you have more of a medicinal touch to it. You have more of a bonfire touch to it. This just smells like the smell when you open the kiln fire, the drying floor, and you feel the smoke coming out of that drying room. Oh, nice. I love it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. Starting juicy, juicy, fruity, and then it kicks in, shows spiciness, shows depth, shows more smoke cladding your mouth. The aftertaste still there, a lightly peppery note in it, and above all is the smoke and maltiness. Of course, it's a malt whiskey, but now, in the moment, I'm feeling this malt, lightly sweet in the aftertaste. Yeah.
Nice. It's a nice mixture that just goes so well together, the sweetness and the smokiness. It's like with food you have sweet and sour, and with the Ardbeg you have sweet and smoky, and just pairs so well. You have a lightly sweet, smoky liquid that just rolls over your tongue very, very smoothly. Has a bit of a nuances on the sides. You can have a great chat about that, what that is, but after all, it's a nice, sweet, smoky whiskey that rolls over your tongue.
Yeah. Excellent.
Nice. And yeah, when we visited the distillery at Ardbeg, we did the full tour, and the full tour goes through the peat bogs and the marshes, and we went up for a hike to the Loch Ugedal. This here is the Loch Ugedal. I think back in 2012 or
2014, and the dam was rebuilt. It was, quite worn off. It was rebuilt in 2012, I think, or 11, no idea. And we went up there and had a overnight clamping up there. So the weather was really fine, 25 degrees centigrade. And this Loch Ugedal is for the water, for the Ardbeg whiskey. And you have to preserve that water up there to always have water supply, fresh water, sweet water supply to the distillery. And so when we went up there, on the next photo, we see me together, or Mickey Hats together with me, where we went up to Laphroaig, and he was really fit. So he retired last year or the year before, and he was really fit. So it was a wonderful hike up there. And you see there's fog. So the dam is just left side of the picture, and now the fog came up and temperatures fell down to 5 degrees centigrade. So weather is very, very turning up there. And it was really, really cold. And we had a very cold night, and thankfully we had enough Ardbeg there. Yeah.
Yeah, you were having a big tent with a big beds, I think, and everything, and
we went to bed with all our clothing.
and the big bunkie, or I don't know the word. I went up there and brought my own tent, so I had a good sleeping bag. I didn't. For me, it wasn't cold at all, but it was very, very wet. Yeah, so. The distillery gets its water from this log. It used to have their own maltings, but they don't have that anymore. And now they get their malt from the Port Ellen maltings. They could do a good malting because they do have their own peat bog. And let's have a look at that peat bog. And here we see that peat bog. And what you already see is, okay, there's already been cut a little bit. And you have about 3 foot down or a meter of peat, and at the top is a bit more grayish. That has a lot of roots in it, and the lower you get down, it's more compressed and more like coal, but it feels a little bit like nougat. Mm-hmm. And how you cut it is shown with Horst in the next picture very well.
You have a spade with a blade, with a shaped blade, where you cut up these briquettes, and then you throw it up on the side. So it's a heavy work. You have to put your underarm on your knee, so you get a cantilever to move it up, because it's wet, it's heavy. Mm-hmm. So you're putting up there 10 kilos probably from this little peat down there. Yeah.
So what you then do is you cut it down. You have one of these bricks. You throw it up over your right shoulder, and then it just lies on the floor, and someone just breaks it apart into, let's say, about 3 pieces, and then they put it up in a little pyramid shape. And what happens then is the water from the marshland, because it's marshland, peat, and it flows down into the ground and leaves you with a dried peat brick. But it forms a solid layer on top, so most of them. So the ones with the roots get a bit drier, the other ones that are more like nougat have a solid layer, so they keep a little bit of that water inside. And that is important, because that water gives you a more damp combustion and much more smoke, and that smoke is very important then to get into the malt that is being dried, and that gives you that peaty flavor. Yeah, so that's how a peat bog looks like. That's the very, very top of it, with a lot of roots in it. Yeah, so that was about the peat side that we taste inside the whiskey. And let's get into the Ardbeg 5.
The Wee Beastie. And the Wee Beastie is what? Where's the name from?
Yeah, the Wee Beastie. I did the Ardbeg Adventure. And the Ardbeg Adventure was, you start off at the distillery, go to Laphroaig, camp there for a night, go further, camp there for a night, go further, camp there for a night, and then you run back to the distillery. And what you find is you have a lot of prey going for you, and one of them is the midgie, and the midgie is a very, very, very small mosquito.
The Scottish Air Force.
And they bite you, and they sting. It's not like you don't even see how they sting you, because they look like a little little spot on your arm, and I didn't used to have a spot there, and they're like, oh, that's a midgie, and they come everywhere, and they are horrible. So in winter it's pretty cold to go hiking there. In summer it's just midgies.
So we were there in spring, I think. It was May, so we didn't have any.
Oh, okay.
So
but
here we
was
have-
colder for you then.
And here above, what do we see below? This is a monster of a dram. 5 years old, and they are fleeing. No, we're taking it straight ahead. And the dog, Shorty, is there. I always thought Shorty was a little Chinese from Indiana Jones. So here we
Apparently
go.
not.
I forgot myself. Oh, I'm so sorry. So this one has more ABV. It's 47.4 or 7? 4. 47.4. And you are able to taste that. So there's a little cooling effect from the whiskey. Some say it's mint, probably. What I feel is this light cooling effect, and then a little bit of spiciness, and overall everything is smoke, like the Ardbeg 10. It's the same sort of smoke, same kind of smoke, and probably a little bit of resin. Yeah, pine resin.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a bit lighter. The fruitiness is a bit different. So different cask in there. So you have a bit more fresh fruitiness, and I would say even more smoke. Yeah, the smoke evaporates out of the whiskey during the maturation. So we only have 5 years, so there's more smoke left in there, and it's a bit more phenolic, it's a bit more fresh in there. But it feels even a bit more stronger than the 10-year-old. So I think they've put in more cask influence. So this is a bit more additive
So
maturation.
they are both not colored. Of course, no Ardbeg is colored. It's unchill filtered, and they are very close in color. So when one is 10 years old and the other 5, and they are same in color, well, they have to have added something, and this is Oloroso sherry casks. So there will be some color coming from, additional color coming from, as well as additional taste is coming from. Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Really kicks in stronger, a lot stronger than the 10. And in the start, very sweet, very juicy, and then spiciness kicks over and juiciness is gone. Aftertaste, long, spicy. Yeah. Saltiness, probably. A little saltiness. Always the question where the saltiness comes from, probably from the spray, from the near sea, or it's just a novelty in my brain.
Yeah, I think it's in remembrance of salt. But the thing is, you influenced me. Now that you said salt, I do have it in my glass as well. It's stronger than the 10-year-old.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not as mature. It's more smoke, more fresh, more fruitiness, just more packed in. So they kind of a little bit, did an exchange for younger whiskey, but more intense within the flavor. Oh, I like it.
So where we go next? Production.
Yeah. So, production. I think we've both been to the distillery. So when you have that malted barley that the distillery gets from Port Ellen, the first thing that they do is they crush it. They crush it down with this mill. And I've seen a lot of distilleries, and most distilleries have a Porteous malt mill, but the Ardbeg distillery doesn't. They do have a bobby mill. They are, I think, a bit more prevalent to the south. More of the northern distilleries, we got the Porteous malt mill. The bobby mills are pretty common as well. I've seen already a few bobby mills, except none of them have been green yet.
That's the
they've all
Ardbeg
been-
color. Everything is green.
Yeah.
Look at the iron
Yeah.
fence there.
I think if you scratch it, you will find some red under there. But I wouldn't do that. It'd kick me out. So yeah, so you grind it down to a coarse grist to get maximum amount of surface area. Because what you want to do is you want to solve the sugars and the starches out. You do that in the mash tun. This is the mash tun. And inside the mash tun, you have the coarse grist, and the water is mixed to it at 63 to 64 degrees Celsius. And at this temperature, you have best solubility, and the enzymes work at the starch, and they turn the starch into sugar. So you get a really, 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 really sweet mash.
What you're able to see here is Ardbeg has a very, very old mash tun from cast iron. You can see it on the very left bottom.
Oh,
And they added a lid on top for having better energy efficiency. And the inside, we'll see in the next picture, was modernized as well. So you have these blades turning inside, and
so it's a modern semi-lauder tun.
with an old outside.
With an old outside. So a little bit of tradition going on, but a lauder tun is just much more efficient.
Yeah.
And solving the sugar and starch out of the grist, it's not that affecting the taste of the whiskey. So the very, very old Ardbeg before they had that will not be that different because of that. Okay, so once they have drained the sugary water, then they do a second run, and then they even do a third run. But the third run usually doesn't have enough sugar in it, so they use the water from the third run back for the first run of the next one. And then we go over to the wash bags. Once the water has pumped out of the mash tun, being cooled down to 18 degrees Celsius, it's being filled into one of these 6 wash bags. But nowadays the distillery has expanded, so they will have more wash bags. And in these wash bags, we're going to do what we're actually here for. We're going to produce alcohol. What we're going to do is we add yeast, and then you start having the fermentation gas going up and bubbling, and the alcohol is being produced. And after a while, you have 8.5% ABV and a lot of interesting flavors within that wash. So this is the first step where flavors are being created, and the first step that is really important for the flavor of the whiskey, if you don't count the step of putting the peat smoke into the mash, into the malt, because it's done outside. After that, we have some alcohol, and we need to raise the alcohol to a higher percentage. What we're going to do is distilling. This here is the old still house. I think you did the photo. And nowadays they do have a new still house. Unfortunately, none of us have been with the new still house. It's brand new, and now they have double their capacity. They didn't want to change the spirit at the slightest. So what they did is they rebuilt the production steps exactly the same, but they actually did 4 stills instead of 2 stills. Now they have 2 wash stills, 2 spirit stills, and they run them all. So they're now producing 2.4 million liters per year in a double distillation going. And after the distillation, they water down the spirit a little bit, and they fill it into casks, and it goes off to the warehouse. The climate around the warehouses is pretty nice because in winter it goes down to 4 degrees Celsius, not too cold, and in summer in July it goes up to 14 degrees Celsius. Yeah, it's a little bit because of the sea climate, but also because of the huge brick stone buildings, because they kind of have a good heat capacity, and that's how the maturation process becomes very, very slow, and you have a very, very more reductive maturation than additive maturation. In hotter climates you'd have more additive maturation because there's more interaction with the wood. In colder climates it's more reductive, and the Scottish like that.
Here you can see in the foreground you had the new warehouses, or relatively new warehouses. In the back there were those dunnage warehouses, old style. We come to that later.
Yeah, this is the very, very iconic picture of Ardbeg with a huge Ardbeg written on it. Nowadays it's just for tourists to make pictures. Back in the days it was actually pretty nice to have it on there, because the distilleries were supplied by sea. There were still small steamships coming around, and the steamships had cargo and they needed to know where to go, and they were like, Ardbeg, let's drive to that building that has written Ardbeg on it. And I'm actually standing here and taking a picture from that old pier. Distillery uses it for fishing and small tastings of VIPs up front in front of the distillery. It's pretty nice there. Yeah, so let's have a look inside the warehouses.
This is one of the old dunnage warehouses, where you can see you have a concrete floor on the Isles, and below the cask you see this stamped raw floor where it's wet down below them. So you have this wonderful, slightly wet atmosphere inside the warehouses for the best maturation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. These are 2012. Were just filled 2 years when I was there, but today they are close to ready for the 10-year-old.
Yeah, they're close to ready. Mm. So, and when you're in the courtyard of Ardbeg, you have about that picture here, and it's nice because there's always lorries backing up, or from you Americans, trucks backing up and unloading fresh casks. And these casks are then stored upright here, and sometimes it's raining on them, and the guys at the distillery are just rolling them into that warehouse with the big lactors on it, and that's where the casks are being filled with new make spirit, and then they're being transported off to the warehouses for 10 years, and nowadays maybe just 5 years. Yeah, so this was the production, because after the cask, after the maturation, it's just into the bottle.
Yeah. So next one is there had been a lot of questions, so we have to look.
Mm-hmm.
How do you compare Ardbeg with Laphroaig, Antonio D from Portugal? So I remember you last time. So we typically do not compare here because this is a plain Ardbeg tasting, so we do not compare with other distilleries. But Laphroaig has more these hospital, medicinal, disinfection smell.
Bene, like cosa preferis Ardbeg or Laphroaig? I think, do you prefer Ardbeg and Laphroaig, I would say.
Yeah. So, Torbati al massimo 50 ppm per me, ora per l'occasione.
I think there's some Italians going on in the chat.
He was from Milano, I think.
Yeah.
And Ardbeg has, it said they have 55 ppm of smoke.
Yeah, 55.
And I personally just think it's 45 and not 55. But this is the specification you get from the maltings. And in the whole process of making whiskey, most of that smokiness is gone. So if you have a tenth of that phenols in your cask, then you're really good. And with the years of maturation, those phenols oxidize even more, and they bring more complex aromas and leaving less smokiness as well. So yeah, for me personally, it's just 45.
Yeah, the thing is, they come in with 55. It's the way they distill it. For me, if you have the 10-year and the 5-year-old, the 5-year-old is much more smoky because the smokiness didn't evaporate or oxidize within the cask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of smoky, let's get the smoker out.
I'm half French and German, haha, but I've always been living in Venice. Venice Beach or Venice? So
I've
this
actually
is.
never been to Venice yet. It's a shame.
You have to speed up, otherwise we'll be gone.
You mean to drown? I think they just.
You had been to Venice and slept half of the travel
Yeah.
there.
How old was, how old was I?
This is the
Probably not.
An Oa, and we rip it off. And you have a web of flavor notes, and they have a torch like the Indiana Jones, and a web where Indiana Jones always runs through. Take away from the head.
I think that's in every Indiana Jones movie, isn't it?
Yeah, always. Oh, this one is dark. So no Ardbeg is colored. So this is natural color. So we put it on the smoker. Will it stay? Yeah. And it's darker. Yeah, and this comes from additional casks.
Mm-hmm.
So we have PX casks, Pedro Jimenez sherry casks, and fresh oak casks. They do not tell us which kind of cask, if it's a European oak or American white oak. But you see the sherry is intense in it. And fresh casks give color as well.
Yeah, fresh cask give color. So I think the fresh cask, they must be American oak cask. Otherwise, it would be just too harsh, wouldn't it? I haven't tried a whiskey with a fresh European oak cask yet. I mean, there's so much variation going on with whiskeys, but I haven't tried that yet.
I had.
And really?
Chewing on oak.
Chewing on oak. So maybe that's why nobody does it.
So this one is sweet, syrup, but also cooling. Aniseed, probably. So it's those 46.6, a little bit more. And, oh, it's cleaning up my nose very well. Dates. This is from the old, or the sherry cask with the oxidized cherry in it. Fruitiness. And above everything, smoke, of course. And this is from the kind of smoke, very comparable. So I think those, they do not change their smokiness in the malt at all. They just have it. And there had been times before where they had this Kildalton bottling where there was no smoke in it at all. So they had...
Kildalton, no, the Kildalton was pretty smoky. It was called Blaster. The Blaster was without smoke.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Blaster. With a D.
Yeah. I love it. It's a very nice one. It has even more of a cask influence with a lot of sweetness going on. It has a bourbon touch to it, but it does have nuances of so much sherry also going on. So it's very nuanced and very, very complex. I love it. Combined with a very distinctive, nice smokiness. So it's a mixture between that whiff of grey cloud that you had with the 10 and that medicinal one. So it's a mixture. It's not quite medicinal, but not quite subtle smoke, I would say.
So
I like it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This really kicks you. Definitely. Wonderful mixture full complex with a cask. I'm a sherry cask fan, definitely. And this one, intense sherry cask flavor mixed with smokiness and decent ABV, so everything is glowing in your mouth. Wonderfully complex, full. Yeah. In the aftertaste, oranges and some smoker toast from the grill. Yeah. Okay.
Much more intense than I expected. So it's very oaky. So the fresh oak really leaves a mark on that one. But I also like it because it's very round, very sweet. You have a bit of orange, you have a bit of chocolate going on, a lot of smoke going on as well. I like it. Very creamy as well, strangely enough. I don't think it was like that when I had it the first time. So now that I had so much smoke in my system, it just changed the whiskey experience for me at all.
So now I do have this ham, smoked ham.
Really? Oh.
Black Forest smoked ham. Yeah. I always thought I would have it with the 10 or the Beastie, Wee Beastie, but I have it now.
Oh, Romania was Romaine Laphroaig,
Laphroaig.
20 Canadian dollars.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we have reached the end of our tasting with the 3 whiskeys. So what whiskey did you like best? I've seen that a lot of people have the some of the whiskeys on their I don't know, couch table or something like that. I don't know where you taste the whiskey. And so which one was the best? Which one was your best?
So I do have a sequence, and I had that sequence with the first tasting, and I keep to that sequence with my second. So I haven't changed.
I've changed my sequence.
Yeah?
Yeah, for me it's now An Oa, 10, and Wee Beastie.
Okay, and for me it's An Oa, Wee Beastie, 10. So I like the more kick in the whiskey.
You like the sherry cask?
Yeah, that's it.
You like the sherry cask?
So the ex-bourbon, pure vanilla, smoky whiskey. That's not my favorite. There has to be more in it. Yeah.
I did like the Ardbeg 10 and the German take the best. It's just because it was so round, mild, and easy and nice. It's just I would say if you want to bring in someone to the smoky whiskeys and you don't want to overwhelm them because you know that guy or girl might not be into that rough whiskeys, let's say, of other stronger whiskeys, the Ardbeg 10 might be the right one to start off with a good smoky whiskey. The Ardbeg Distillery has a lot of other bottlings. There is the Kildalton, we have the Corrie Brecken, which is core range, then we have Ardbeg, which is discontinued, I think.
A long time ago.
A long time ago, we have the Blaster, which is non-smoky.
Very long gone.
I actually had 1974 Ardbeg Kildalton at one time. That was awesome. At the Kildalton Cross, by the way.
and we have a new 25-year-old.
And the 25-year-old, which have been not nominated, awarded from us the best whiskey with the Whisky.com award of 2021, which was, it was just an amazing whiskey. It's just, it's amazingly expensive as well. And there has been the Galileo, or what was it called?
Galileo, it was called. And this was a experiment, or was made after an experiment. They put a sample of Ardbeg whiskey on the International Space Station with a nano or cube with a few liters in it, and then they compared it with the identical whiskey on the soil, and then they looked for, I think they matured it for a year.
Okay.
Or even longer. And then I compared it and made some decisions, I do not remember. And from that they built a a bottling, made a bottling called Galileo with a wonderful label on it, and this is one of the very, very few in my collection. And it just races to the moon with the price.
And there's a spaceship on it.
Yeah, there's a spaceship
on
on
the
it,
label.
but it looks like Perry Roden first series. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it with our tasting. Now the next tasting will be on the 25th of February.
Just before we need a.
Oh, we didn't finish out. What was your favorite whiskey? Sorry. So let's finish that and have a look at how it was. 47% Ardbeg 10, 41% Ardbeg An Oa, and 11% Wee Beastie. Bit more decisive than the German one, and the Ardbeg 10 beat the An Oa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in the German take it was something like 23% Wee Beastie and 46% An Oa and 30 something Ardbeg 10. So it was kind of very split in the middle here. This close race between Ardbeg 10 and An Oa.
Yeah, and the Ugedal, we forgot the Ugedal, cast strength.
Ugedal, yeah.
No, not cast strength, high proof.
High proof, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I said, that's the end. And let's have a look at what we're going to do next with the live tastings. And it's going to be on the 25th of February at Whisky.com/live, and it will be at 8 p.m. Central European Standard Time. If you want to know when it is in your time zone, just go to Whisky.com/live. During the next days, there will be that event up, and if you click on it, it will tell you when it will be in your time zone, so you don't have to calculate anything or something like that to the Central European time zone. Yeah, so that was it. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.